Like every medieval empire, Moscovia earned a living, starting wars and robbering the states. However, the wars were not always crowned with success, especially towards Europe. Moscovite military expeditions against Rus were countered every time. One of the most famous events is the Battle of Orsha in 1514, where the Russian prince Konstantin Ostrogsky completely defeated the Grand Moscow Army. In the middle of the 16th century, Moscow Tsar Ivan IV the Terrible launched an attack on the Crimean Khanate. Devlet I Girai gathered troops and captured Moscow in the 1571 campaign. Suffering a defeat, Ivan IV was forced to swear allegiance to the Tatars, giving Astrakhan away to the Crimean Khan and once again paid tribute to him. Ivan the Terrible also renounced the titles of Tsar and heir of the Second Rome Byzantium. After that, Moscovia paid tribute to the Crimean Khanate until the beginning of the 18th century. The tribute was cancelled by the Ottoman Sultan Mustafa II according to the agreement with Tsar Peter I. After the defeats in the European direction, Moscovia hurled all effort to the east, the former territories of the Golden Horde, or Tartary. Due to this, over the course of several centuries, Moscovia increased its territory all the way to the Pacific Ocean, conquering dozens, if not hundreds, of smaller nations and the sparsely inhabited lands of Siberia. The Russian Empire even seized Alaska and flogged it to the United States of America after defeat in the Crimean War in the mid-19th century, which Russia itself started. The methodology of empires is that it takes attacking and robbering other states, assimilating the population, in other words, imposing their own language, culture, and management methods in order to survive, maintain a large army, and preclude internal conflicts and riots. Everybody who physically or intellectually fights back should be destroyed or at best sentenced and sent to Siberia or the Asian prairies. That's how Moscovia have been acting for centuries. The gradual and prolonged occupation of the Ukrainian lands brought Moscovia the greatest success. During the 18th century, Moscovia occupied Ukraine from the Kuban to the Dnipro and up to the Carpathians into the Kholm region, from Crimea to Belgorod, Starodub, and Brest. Extremely rich cornizems, natural resources, and serfs significantly improved its economy. With the lapse of time, Kuban, Don, and other Cossacks were assimilated and reinforced the empire's troops. That was the reason Moscovia managed to conquer the area of Siberia. Thanks to Ukrainian people and natural resources, Moscovia became a really powerful empire. Ukrainians were not only the best soldiers in its army, but also the best scientists, inventors, and workers up to the collapse of the USSR. Moscovian culture was mostly created by Ukrainians as well. At the end of the 17th century, the beginning of the 18th centuries, Ukrainian Cossacks were actively used as a labor force during the construction of canals in the city of St. Petersburg itself. Cossacks successfully participated in the Northern War and numerous wars against the Ottoman Empire. The Cossacks, who did not support Ivan Mazepa, made it possible for the Moscow Tsar Peter I to defeat the allied army of the Swedish King Charles XII and the Ukrainian hetman. In the time of the First and Second World Wars, the main battles took place on the territory of Ukraine. Ukrainian recruits were actively used there by the Russian Empire and the USSR. The number of Ukrainians in the Red Army during the Second World War was about 7 million. Ukrainian crops, grown by Ukrainian serfs, fed Moscovites and brought them huge profits. The sale of grain and stolen jewels made it possible for the Bolsheviks to carry out industrialization in the USSR, buying the whole plants and factories, as well as the newest technologies and tanks from the West. In the USSR of the 20th century, Ukrainian oil and gas were pumped for the Moscovites' needs and sold abroad. Moscovia used the occupied territory citizens as cannon fodder in its numerous wars and for hard labor. Moscovites dispatched disobedient representatives of various nations to concentration camps called gulags throughout the USSR. They were actively used from the early 1920s to the 1970s. Some of the camps worked until the collapse of the USSR. Ukrainians comprised up to a fifth of all prisoners. Their number was several millions. The Nazis borrowed the Soviet practice of creating concentration camps during the cooperation between the two totalitarian regimes in the 1930s. The world community knows more about the activities of the Nazi death camps than about the no less significant and more frequent crimes of the Russian Moscovites. In gulags, prisoners were subjected to hard labor and were used as free and unlimited slave labor. Collective farms, coal farms, plants, and factories prevailed in Ukraine occupied by the Russian Bolsheviks. It was a barely hidden exploitation of slave labor of Ukrainians and people of other nations. Historically, there was no private property and democratic system in Moscovia, only slave-owning authoritarian power inherited from the Khans of the Asia Golden Horde. That's why they still love the strong hand of the Tsar. However, Ukrainians have always been private owners of an extremely independent and freedom-loving soul. The world's first democratic constitution was created by Ukrainians in 1710 precisely on the basis of the democratic rules of the Ukrainian people and the Cossacks. This constitution is the basis of all subsequent democratic constitutions in the world. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned, click the like button, and subscribe to our channel.